down 77% in 2023. Is Nikola stock a buy for 2024? That's the question I'm going to answer in this video. Now, to answer that question, I'm going to look at Nikola's prospects, its developments, how it's doing with the battery recall and the potential impacts that can have, and then its revenue prospects over the last several years, cash flow, the long-term debt, and finally valuation, and put it all together to come to a conclusion of what I think if Nikola stock is a bargain for 2024. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So in its most recent quarter, one of the big highlights of the quarter, or I shouldn't say highlights, but one of the big things that happened was a major recall for its battery electric trucks. And the cost of that, the estimated cost, the outsized cost, is roughly $61.8 million, the warranty reserve for the cost to fix this battery electric truck recall. That's a massive expense for Nikola, especially when you consider in the last 3 quarters, Nikola has generated 15 plus 10.5, that's 27 plus 5, about 32 million in revenue in the last 3 quarters. And so the warranty reserve, the cost to fix this is going to be twice the amount of revenue the company has generated in the last 3 quarters in total. You could just see the magnitude of this problem, and this is an estimate. Hopefully the cost comes in as estimated and not very much above that figure, because already, even before this case, if you look at the net loss from continuing operations, Nikola lost 140 million in Q2, 145 million in Q1, 175 million in the quarter before that. It was losing a lot of money on the bottom line, but the good news was that it was reducing those losses, right? It was from 175 to 145 to 140, so it was making progress. And then this recall had to happen and really slow things down and put the company on its back foot again. Hopefully they fix this and they get it going and they move in the forward direction in 2024. So one of the good news from the quarter is that Nikola got 277 orders from 35 different customers for its hydrogen fuel cell electric truck. That's the truck that it's now focused on, switching from the battery electric truck to this hydrogen fuel cell electric truck. They also got orders for 47 battery electric trucks. They're not going to stop selling those, but what management's going to do from now on, they said they're not going to make those until they get an order. So they're not going to make them and then keep them in inventory hoping that somebody comes in to buy it. But what they're going to do is make them available, and if a customer wants to buy it, they pay for it up front and they order it up front, and then Nikola makes it. So they're not taking that inventory risk, which I think is a prudent decision from a company that's cash strapped, that needs cash and needs to contain cash and keep it as long as possible. Now, they do have excellent prospects because beginning January of 2024, all new trucks registered with the California Air Resources Board for operation in California ports must be zero emissions. And there's over 30,000 trucks in operation in California ports. So the new trucks that want to get registered in California, they're going to need to be zero emissions. So either battery electric or the hydrogen fuel cell variant. That is going to benefit Nikola. Of course, there are competitors, but Nikola will be one of those competitors that will benefit from that trend in 2024. First, though, it has to fix this recall issue and regain customer trust, and therefore regain those orders and get the company back to generating revenue and reducing those losses on the bottom line. I mentioned already the company has only recently started generating revenue, and the best quarter it had was revenue of over 20 million, and it's been downhill from there. And the negative 1.732 million, you might say, how can you get negative revenue? Well, if your returns are higher than your sales, you get negative revenue. And because of the recall, Nikola had negative revenue in the most recent quarter. I suspect that to change once it resolves the issue. It can return to generating millions in revenue again, and hopefully that will be the case sooner rather than later for Nikola stock investors. The operating income for the company, it's negative, but that's understandable. Any newer company is going to generate losses on the bottom line, and Nikola at negative 226 million in the most recent quarter was another example of that. It was making some progress, like I showed you earlier. The company had cut some costs to reduce losses on the bottom line, and once it starts making sales again, I wouldn't be surprised if it improves its losses on the bottom line, at least shrinks the losses to some degree. Cash flow from operations, you can already see the big improvement from Nikola. It was heading in the wrong direction, but look, over the last couple of quarters, it's really stopped its cash flow losses. You can see negative 91 million in the most recent quarter. That was better than the close to 200 million in loss in the 2 quarters ago, in its worst period of its history in terms of cash flow from operation losses. So it is making progress here, and that decision to reduce inventory build is a smart one, and that's going to reduce those losses even more. Of course, with so much losses, I want to look at the balance sheet, and Nikola has 362 million in cash and short-term investments and 158 million in debt. Debt is not really a problem for Nikola. It's chosen to raise capital through selling more shares of stock. Shareholder dilution is more of a concern than long-term debt. Nikola did receive permission to sell more shares, so if it needs more money, it can go to investors and say, give us a little more money, give us a few hundred million more, because we need the money to get us through this rough period until we can increase our sales again. And finally, I wanted to look at valuation, and Nikola is trading at a forward price to sales of 3.33. So putting this all together, the valuation, the recall, the prospects, the tailwind from the need from California truckers, in more precisely, I would say for 2024, Nikola stock is not a buy. Not a buy. There's too much uncertainty right now for me to recommend Nikola stock. The recall, when is that going to be resolved? How much is it going to ultimately cost the company? And then when will it start generating sales in a meaningful figure again? And how much will that be? And will it be able to sell that battery electric truck inventory? So those are things I'm looking out for. The first quarter is going to be critical for Nikola in 2024. That's when it's supposed to be done with the recall. And if it does hit that milestone and it does return those trucks to customers, I think that would be a really good sign for Nikola stock investors. Did you know that over 90% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed? It'll really help support my channel if you hit that subscribe button. And oh, by the way, one of the benefits of being subscribed is that I take requests from subscribers more often than I do from non-subscribers. So if you prefer that benefit, please subscribe to the channel.